So have you ever noticed this thing called recency bias, which is the thing that's happened to you most recently, you tend to view as more likely to happen in the future, or as being more, how should we say, more relevant when you consider your overall situation. So, for instance, if I go through bankruptcy last month, let's say, I am going to be have a much likely to have a much higher you know, view that money is scarce and finances are difficult and things like that. And it's going to probably, I'm probably going to have a little bit of a warped perspective. On the other hand, if, let's say I had kind of someone randomly, out of the blue, gave me a $100,000 check last month, I'm probably going to have or maybe a better illustration would be if one of my clients had just a gangbuster month, like never happens, but just out of the blue, boom, had a gangbuster month. Um, I'm probably going to overestimate the likelihood that that client is going to continue to have gangbuster months based on that one month because it happened very recently. Now, a couple years from now, let's say that client goes on to kind of continue having average months between, over the next 2 years. And 2 years from now, I make a projection on how much revenue that client is going to bring in. It's that gangbuster month is probably not going to have a lot of impact on my analysis of their potential. So it is interesting how events that are recent to us, we kind of overassign values, or you can even say like in the moment. So like if you're feeling like right after something terrible happens, you probably think life is more terrible than it actually is on the whole. And right after something amazing happens, you probably think life is more amazing than what it generally is. Or you think that your outlook for the future maybe is stronger than what it is. Now, that being said, I do think there's a case to be made for being unreasonably hopeful or to being deliberately optimistic. Like, I think those are very useful characteristics. And that the case for real genuine hope is also extremely strong for the person who believes and embraces the idea of the kingdom of God coming to earth. But just looking at this whole recency bias thing, it is interesting how easily our perspectives, our moods, how easily they're swayed by the things that have happened to us recently, rather than us using completely sort of left-brained, like we're so remarkably bad, I want to say, at assessing risk from a statistical standpoint. Or we could say we're not too bad at it from a statistical standpoint if, like in a vacuum, right? But, if you see someone close to you die from a disease, you're going to probably way over, like you're going to think that the risk from that disease is probably much higher than what it actually is from a statistical standpoint, because proximity, you were close to someone who died from that disease. So it's just interesting how we're not a hyper, like in the way we feel about things, risks and opportunities and all that stuff. We're not hyper logical. We are very subject to recency, proximity, all of those things that can make a big difference in our perspective on a given topic. So maybe that's a good, maybe the takeaway here is when you see someone's perspective and you look at it and you're like, that person's perspective is just warped. It may be warped. It probably is warped, but have some compassion, because maybe their proximity to the thing that influenced their thoughts, or the recency of that thing that influenced them, is much different than yours. And so maybe their ability to take it rationally is different than yours. And so be kind.